Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is behind the steel curtain editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It's Tuesday night. It's a little after 9 o'clock. It's right about the right time of when we start to roll. And where else would you rather be right now if you're a Steelers fan? In anticipation of there might be something going on with the Steelers here in the next week, hopefully. But with me, as always, wouldn't be the Scho Bro Show if it wasn't for my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going?
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Hey, it's going. Getting more and more excited. I love the draft.
Yeah.
What I hate is the mock drafts.
Yeah, which is what we will talk about tonight. Well, last week we did our own mock draft. You all did that.
I mocked the mocks.
You mocked the mocks. Well, because there's only one way. There's only one way to mock. Sorry. I'm just happy that Kyle and Greg gave me a different song to sing. If you are one of our YouTube or Facebook Live viewers and you don't listen to the audio only shows, this is what Yin's talking about. That's on Thursdays. Kyle and Greg. I say it's Kyle and Greg, but really it's Kyle. He sings it live every week. I mean, I love the QB22 "Where Are You" song that they had, which was pre-recorded because he had to get the harmonies in order to do the Scooby-Doo theme song. But his only one way to mock, he sings it every week. But I thank him so much because for me, being the author of the Mock Draft Mondays articles, I always had the same song stuck in my head every time I had to do the article. It's just another Mock Draft Monday. I wish it were Sunday, but that's the song that I always have. But now, thanks to Kyle, I can now have "There's Only One Way to Mock." So speaking of mocks, I just want to do a review. If you missed it last week, I'm going to give it to you now. This was the mock draft that came out of the live chat, which is funny. I ran another simulation over the weekend. It was completely different. There was it was nowhere close to the same options. It was crazy what the Steelers could do. But the way that it went last week was the first round pick, 20th overall. We didn't do any trades just because we weren't doing that way. It was I'm going to screw up names again because I just love doing it. Chris Olave for a wide receiver, Ohio State. Pick number 52, second round was Travis Jones, defensive lineman, UConn, which I like him, but the Steelers didn't send one single person to their pro day. So that's the only thing I don't know about that one. Third round, pick number 84, offensive tackle Abraham Lucas from Washington State. Fourth round, pick 138. It was cornerback Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. There wasn't a fifth round pick. Sixth round was pick 208 was Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver Baylor. Seventh round, pick 225 was Isaiah Polama'au from safety from USC. That's Troy's nephew. And then pick 241 was the second seventh round pick was Noah Burks, edge, Wisconsin. Man, I ran like 3 simulations this weekend, and Polama'au was gone before the 6th round at every one of them. So it's just crazy how much things change. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Anything you want to say about last week, Rich?
Just if you didn't notice me dozing off there at all the mock draft.
I wasn't looking at the screen. I was trying to read what our picks were.
Everybody else was out there. I mean, I was the point where I was like drooling and everything. Like, I'm just sleeping because I don't know. I'm sorry.
I know mock is the false lead. Sorry.
No, it's like I know that there are some people out there like me that are just I don't get the whole mock draft thing because it's really not a mock draft. It's
a fantasy draft.
It's not. It's let's do a bunch of guessing.
Yeah.
Like I could throw darts blindfolded with better accuracy than most mock drafts.
But that is also,
I know it's fun. For some people it's fun, and I understand. They get it. They talk about it, and it's just a lot of fun and leads to a lot of discussion. It's just not my thing.
Yeah,
it's not there.
And I understand. It's like, do you really expect it to be right? No. I mean, No, go
I'll
ahead.
say this because Andrew Wilbar's out there in the live chat tonight, and he gets into this mock draft stuff. But for Andrew, I totally get it. I mean, I sing his praise there, but I'm out fishing with a friend yesterday, and we're talking Steelers. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Andrew Wilbar, and how thankful I am that Andrew Wilbar is out there and does all the work on these college guys to figure things out. And he does all that mock draft kind of stuff. Why? So I don't have to. It's like I've been, so don't get it as I'm not grateful to people that do it. No, I'm glad there are people that like and enjoy that. It is not my cup of tea.
Your cup of tea. Speaking of which, I'm not going to attempt. I shouldn't attempt to do a British accent, but I was editing an article for the website today, which ran this afternoon. It was by one Pittsburgh Owen.
Yeah.
Did an article. It was actually about our second round pick that we had in our draft. It was, now I can't remember his name, Jones. Okay. From UConn, and about how the Steelers, if he's available there, they should consider that pick. But he said something in that article. I'm like, he listens to me on podcast. It's got to be, because it was the whole notion. He said, I don't want to fall in love with someone only to see them in purple and black or orange, and brown or tiger stripes or anything like that. And that's the thing. Andrew gets into every single prospect, and that's great. I can't do that. And because my thing is I don't want to get excited about someone who then is not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's my biggest thing. And
all right, I want to bring up a comment that was put out here on Facebook. Okay. Because I think this kind of sums it up for me, what I am. All right. Harvey Stone Jr. says mock draft for me is just to familiarize myself with a lot of players I never got to see. Yeah. That's the only reason I look at it. Basically, what mock drafts are doing for me is getting me to get familiar with some of the players.
Some of them, just the names, even.
Just the names, a little bit about them. So come draft time, as we're picking these folks, I get a little bit of clue of who they are. I don't go out and try to fall in love with saying we do this, we do that, with something else ahead of time, just for the reasons you said, Dave. I don't want to fall in love with somebody that eventually is not a Steeler, right? But I do want to be familiar with them, because then I need to be able to quickly turn around for the website and do knee-jerk reactions on the draft picks.
I don't like to say who, which we still end up doing when we get to the end.
I think back, a couple years ago in round 3 when the Steelers drafted Alex Highsmith. Yeah. Okay. I had picked up on his name a little bit in some of the mock stuff and picked up on it, knew which college he had attended. When that pick came, then that allowed me to very quickly go in, look up a little bit of information and a few highlights of some things so that I could make an informed reaction to what the pick was, more than just, hey, they picked a guy that plays this position and the Steelers needed somebody at that position.
Yeah. And I can go back 2 years ago and remember this plain as day when we were doing our live chat mock draft. When it came to the Steelers' third round pick, remember, it was a compensatory pick. It was even later. It was like pick 103, I do believe. We had the option of one of the top players on the board was Alex Highsmith. And I remember specifically saying, I'm like, I'm not going with the small school edge rusher because I don't know him well enough. Right. But if the Steelers love him, I would trust them. I just don't know him well enough. When it comes to small school players, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, when it comes to small school guys, I don't know enough about them because it's harder to understand their level of competition. That's Malik Willis is one of those players. There are plenty of even offensive linemen. You've got like Bernard Raymond, like Trevor Penning, like some of those names I'm throwing out there, Central Michigan, Northern Iowa, some of those teams that you're like, are these guys really first round worthy? I don't know. I trust the Steelers to break down their level of competition much better than I would expect myself. And that's why I knew the name Alex Highsmith, because I remember seeing him on mock drafts as a possibility there for the Steelers in round 3 when I was running my own simulations. And I'm just like, I never pulled the trigger on him because I didn't know enough about him. But that then made it familiar that when they picked him, I'm like, yes, the Steelers like him, and now I understand why. So I get what I run through the mock draft simulations every once in a while. I'll probably still do some more between now and Thursday because I just like to have an idea of those names that at least someone thinks are falling in the middle there that could even be a possibility.
I love listening to and learning about the players that are out there. What frustrates me the most is then people getting into the hearing things that I know it's not just Steeler fans. I know it's every team, but they have to do this or they have to get this guy. They have to get this guy. Oh, if that guy's there, you got to take him and things like that. It's like, you've probably done some homework on these things, I hope a little bit before making those kind of statements. But the Steelers, before they're doing any of this, I mean, their scouting department has done hours and hours and hours of study on these guys. So, I mean, and they need to hire Andrew Wilbar because he does study for hours and hours and hours on these guys.
No, but I love Andrew because Andrew doesn't come in. This is what the Steelers have to do. Blah blah. That's shock jock commentary. I can't stand it. I can't stand when people speak in absolutes. The Steelers, he has to go. I hate those kind of things. They have to move on. They have to make this pick. They have to do that. No, they don't. You can feel strongly, but don't speak in absolutes. That's something I push on my kids all the time. Whenever they say always, I'll turn always. Well, you never. Those are things, those are shock jock statements. And that's what I always try to avoid. Always try. See, there's a difference there. Yeah. I try to avoid that all the time.
Do your best to avoid them.
Because I can't say, it's one thing to say, the Steelers, they got to upgrade the offensive line from 2021. That was just not good. There's a difference between that and saying the Steelers have to make a change right now. There's just kind of a difference in there.
Exactly. And so for me, sorry, I knew we were going to get into this mock stuff. So this is just me on my soapbox a little bit is some people really get into this to try to, for lack of a better term, as a fan, tell the Steelers what to do or say what the Steelers have to do and things like that, I'm very much a fan of just learning who are the guys, what are possibilities, what directions could the Steelers go. But the other thing to me, and this is the math nerd in me, is the whole, it's so tough to gauge these things because, even just in round one, there's 19 picks before the Steelers. Shall we get into the talk of, combinations and permutations into this? It's like, oh my gosh, it could play out so many.
Unless you got the number one overall pick, you've got to be willing to adjust to things on the fly.
Correct. Exactly.
And that's one thing. Like, I gotta say this. I love Najee Harris. I do. I think he's a fantastic back. I think he's a very intriguing person. I still think, Daveed Diggs should play him in the movie because not only do they look the same, they sound the same. But when it comes to the pick last year, a big part of me did not want the Steelers to pick him. Do you want to know why? Because of the shock jocks that were like, the Steelers are taking Najee Harris. Part of me wanted to see him go. Just for people that were so certain. It made sense and it played out that way. And I'm so glad that it did. And I still bring up the whole notion of, wow, I'm glad it played out that way. But who would the Steelers still gone with Naris if Christian Darrisaw did not, who fell all the way to 23? Would they, Virginia Tech, somewhere, Mike Tomlin likes to look at, would they have taken him over Harris? I don't think they would have, but it would have been a little bit more debatable. That was the obvious when the Steelers went on the clock. That was the obvious pick right there, and they made the right
running
pick.
Back was such an area of need. And that's part of what makes this draft a lot more intriguing because we are truly back to the Steelers not having to take any particular position in round one.
And we're going to talk about that here. And part of it, I'm going to say something, and I don't want to offend people in the live chat because this might be you.
Okay, he's about to offend you people in the live chat. Get ready.
No, you'll know if it's you or not. But I see people, commenters on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're not there and you're not in reading articles and commenting, you're missing out. It's a great community. It's free to sign up for username in order to go in and comment. It's great stuff. But the thing that irks me that I just don't get is this statement. And I want to know if it bothers you the way it does me.
Okay.
The Steelers are going to take a first-round quarterback because they've invested too much into looking into them.
No, that's dumb.
To me, I'm like, listen to that for a second. Listen to that. It doesn't make sense. Well, I mean, if none of the quarterbacks are off the board and the Steelers have their choice at 20, I'm fine with that. All these people, we're going to talk about Malik Willis here in a minute. All these people that still have the Steelers taking Malik Willis. Now, some people have them trading up to 6 to get him. Some people have them trading up to 10 to take a guy that I got in the 3rd round of a mock draft this weekend. And things of that nature. I'm not necessarily sold on that. But my thing is, if that's the pick that makes sense when it's time for the Steelers to pick, then make the pick. And I'm fine with that. But if the draft doesn't go that way, and I wrote this article, I think it was Sunday, might have been Saturday. I can't remember. It's all running together. But I was basically in an article because Maurice Jones-Drew, he did a mock draft, and he had a big run on quarterbacks. He had 4 quarterbacks in the top 10, none in the top 5. They went, I think, 6, 7, 9, 10. And the last one was the Saints trading up to 10 to get the 4th quarterback. And I'm like, it's kind of crazy, but man, oh man, the possibilities that were left for the Steelers, not at quarterback, was really nice.
Yes.
So we're going to dive into what we did this last year because I talked about the mock draft Mondays. We're going to go through and we're going to look at the players that I did.
They got me singing a song in my head.
I know. The players that I did each week. Now, the way this article series works, the first one was the 17th of January, the Monday after the Steelers were eliminated from the playoffs. And every Monday, I wasn't making the mock draft. I was just finding the best that I could, going reputable. A lot of them were from CBS or NFL.com. Sometimes I had to go a little bit further out there because what I was doing was I was never repeating a player for this series. Now, it might have been a repeat of when Jeff would cover like one of the McShay mocks. I stayed away from the ESPN because Jeff would cover those regularly. So I was always trying to find a different player. So when you get to the end, you're like, really? You think the Steelers are going to go with him over that person? I did him the first week. I couldn't do it again. So, and then this year I did something different. In the afternoon on Monday, I put out an article that listed them all for you and the date they were. What I want to do, we did this last year. We went through all of these. Then we talked about, was there anyone else that wasn't covered that the Steelers could possibly be taking in the first round? And then some of these that were early, are they kind of off the board? Because some of these were before free agency.
Yeah.
So do you want to just go ahead and dive in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm wanting to get something here to jot some notes down on, actually, as you do this so that I can keep myself straight.
Yeah. Or you could be like me and also pull up my article so I have them here too. But I wrote them all down as I went. This is how long ago it was. If you follow BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, I also have my list of my exit interviews that I did. It was on the same page as my mock draft Monday. So I had some salary cap stuff over there too. So here's what we got. Very first one. I thought, I better do this one now. He might not get mocked to the Steelers again. So I better get this one while the getting's good. Yeah, this is the person who's been mocked to the Steelers probably the most. And that was quarterback Malik Willis from Liberty. Very, very first week I did it, that was who I covered. Now, Rich, do you think anything's changed to kind of take him off the table, even with the signing of Mitch Trubisky?
To take him off the table?
Yeah, that you think, I don't think the Steelers are going to draft him. Other than him not being available by 20. Do you think that's
Correct.
I mean, in our mock draft,
Yes, that's the
he went
greatest
number
possibility.
2. Remember?
Yes,
Last Tuesday he went number 2 with
that's
ours.
the greatest possibility is that he would be gone there. Now, to me, there's also a point to be made there. What's the number one thing that would put him on the table if available for the Steelers? Okay. I actually think the pick of someone like him becomes even more considering the fact of the tragic loss of Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, well, I don't think that
I don't think that makes the Steelers have to do anything, but if
Malik Willis is there at 20, whether it was before the Haskins tragedy or after, I don't think changes whether or not the Steelers
I don't necessarily think it does too.
Yeah.
I feel similar there. What I'm saying though is that, believe it or not, though, there's
more room for him on the roster.
More of a hole to fill.
Yeah.
Although that hole was pretty far down the depth chart.
Yes. The Steelers were adding another quarterback before that. Now they're going to add 2. And they could both be undrafted rookies.
It could
be an undrafted rookie and someone else who's still out there that's just, looking to catch on. But why are the Steelers filling that other? They're like, well, why would they already bring that person in? Why would you bring in somebody? First of all, I haven't looked at who's still out there, but why would you bring in someone like that if you take a quarterback in round 1? There's no reason to do both things.
Right.
So that's why you wait. I think when it comes to quarterback, because we're going to get to more quarterbacks, it really depends on how the draft plays out. So here we go. Week 2, which is interesting because this was a player I hadn't heard of. I started writing, I'm like, I don't know that the Steelers would take a tackle that's a really good pass blocker because they really need someone that's pretty good with the run. And then I looked into this guy after I published the article, and I'm like, man, oh man, the Steelers would take him in a heartbeat. Yeah, I don't see any way he's going to make it to the Steelers unless you're Maurice Jones-Drew, because that's who he gave the Steelers when he gave all the quarterbacks in the top 10. They had offensive tackle Charles Cross from Mississippi State falling to the Steelers. Are you familiar with Charles Cross?
A little bit.
Very athletic. If he would be available at 20 for the Steelers, I would take him over a quarterback. Even if him and all the quarterbacks were available. But I don't see a draft how he would still be available unless there was a big run on quarterbacks. That's the only way he would be available. So that's why you kind of think of what one or the other. So we had him. To me, he's a player that, well, yeah, if he's there, but I don't see him getting to 20. The next week, the last one in January, quarterback Kenny Pickett, Pitt. What do you think of Pickett? Because, I was having a conversation, not in person, but messaging with Andrew Wilbar, that he had the Steelers in his one mock, trading up 2 spots for Malik Willis. I said, if it's 18 and Willis and Pickett are both there, do you think the Steelers would bother using the capital to trade? And he said he doesn't think they're interested in Pickett at all. To me, I don't know that they are, but if they were, boy, could they hide it easily because of sharing the same facility.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So we really have no idea if the Steelers are high on Kenny Pickett at all. There were some early reports that he would be the pick at 20 if he was there over anybody else. Don't know if that's still true or not. But that's someone that the Steelers could really hide. What do you have any thoughts with that?
I'm going to kind of group Pickett together with Willis. Okay. For me personally, they would be the only 2 quarterbacks I think the Steelers would even consider probably in the first round. This is my opinion. The Steelers might be looking elsewhere, but me personally, I'm thinking that it's one of those 2 or none. And really, I don't expect either one to be there at 20.
Yeah.
If you said, Rich, what are the Steelers going to do? I'd say, well, the Steelers would take Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. But personally, I don't think either one will be there at 20. And the Steelers are not going to trade up to get one of them.
And I could see a scenario where they both are.
Yes.
I really could.
Yes, I could as well.
Yeah.
But if you're saying to me, what's going to happen right now? I'm saying the Steelers might like them both. But right now, I would predict that neither is there at 20.
I'm kind of hoping neither's there. And here's why. Saw a report today that a lot of teams, when they do their grades on this draft, only have about 15 players with a legitimate first-round grade. 15 players with a legitimate first. They're talking about this draft being the worst draft since 2013. The draft that was so bad that it was really that it actually was a wise pick for the Steelers to take Jarvis Jones in that draft, because that's how that draft was. 2013 was a bad draft for everyone when you look at it. Just looking at it overall, and I'm like, well, if that's the year that you want to get a quarterback, you're going to have one or two things happen. One, they think the quarterbacks aren't good enough, so they're going to all fall. Or two, everyone's going to run on quarterbacks that really aren't first-round talent, and you're going to get someone else that might actually be. It's one of those things. I looked somewhere else. I can't remember who it was. Someone that does their top 100 players. The first quarterback was at 29. When they just not on where they thought they were going to go, just ranking them by how they thought how good they were. So it's really, I really don't know. It's so much of a smokescreen right now, and everyone's like, "Well, the Steelers don't hide what they're doing." Well, you know what? That's fine, but I don't know. Just because the Steelers put in the effort at quarterback doesn't mean they're drafting one. They have to put in the effort at quarterback every year now that they don't have Ben Roethlisberger, even if they don't take one.
Correct.
That's just what they have to do.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is the draft, if it's going to be, and when they say it's a bad draft, maybe they're just talking first round. Maybe there's 150 players that are third round talent or better, and the third round only runs through like 105 or something like that. But when it comes to the top, I don't know that it's really top heavy. Let's keep going. So we did those 3 through January.
Yep.
We say all 3 of them were players you could see the Steelers taking if they were there, but there's a chance they're not there. Here we go. Here's an interesting one. First one in February 7th. Tyler Linderbaum, center, Iowa.
Yeah. See, this is where we're going to start to get more interesting.
Yeah.
Because for me, he could be off the board after what's going on in free agency.
Yeah. There was a lot of Steelers fans. Oh, Linderbaum's got to be the guy. He's got to be the guy. And then free agency happened. Some people are still saying Linderbaum's the guy. The Steelers have shown zero interest in him. So if they want to take him, then they've done the smokescreen. They didn't have anyone significant at the pro day. There was a report that there was everyone at Iowa's pro day except for the Rams, because they don't pick until like pick 465. But they, I was exaggerating.
That high?
Yeah,
I didn't think they were that high.
Yeah, but I don't know that it. But when you look at the personnel, it didn't seem like any of the top brass was at Iowa's pro day. But he didn't do anything because he got dinged up, I think, at the Senior Bowl or in their bowl game. I can't remember which one it was. It was at a bowl. So to me, if they were really high, but some people are like, well, sometimes you just fill in what you got to do with free agency. But if someone's that great, you got to take them. I don't know if you heard Tony Pauline on Just Let's Ride when he was on there, the draft expert.
I did not.
He thinks Linderbaum's extremely overrated. He's like, he crumbled when there was good competition he had to go up against. He did really well against weaker competition and looked all world. But when he had to play someone decent, disappeared. That's what he says. I don't know. I've watched like 8 plays of the
I've watched a few
so I
plays
don't know.
of him here and there. I've not studied the guy.
So, but this is one that the Steelers have added to the interior offensive line already. I don't know that was a pick before free agency. So I think that one gets moved down. Okay. Yep. There are some people that think he's the best center that's going to be in the draft for the last, few years and for the next few years to come. And there's some people that are like, he's kind of small. He's kind of Kendrick Green 2.0. But they're like, oh, he's got the wrestling background. So did Kendrick Green. I'm not saying Linderbaum won't be. I'm just saying I don't know that the Steelers are going to turn around and do that right now. But he was a name that was really big for the Steelers. I was big with that one too, because I'm like, oh, if this is really the guy. And then if he was really the guy, I don't think the Steelers would have made the free agent signings that they did along with everything else. So the next one was interesting was Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan. That was on Valentine's Day. I don't think he's a first-round pick in a lot of mocks anymore.
Yeah, he's dropped out of that.
He's kind of dropped out where other people have come up. The next one, cornerback Trent McDuffie from Washington. I kind of like how he fits because he's a guy that to me, he's a Cam Sutton. He can play the outside, but he could also slide inside. He's interesting. He's not the top corner in the draft, and he's probably not number 2. A lot of people are higher on Stingley, even though he was hurt last year. Because I don't think he's played for almost 2 seasons or something like that. I can't remember if he was the guy or not. But and Sauce Gardner's the number 1. But he was a guy that they thought could be around for the Steelers. I'm just not sure that corner was where they're going to go. Some people are like, they really need a corner. I'm like, it's funny because unless he's going to come on, unless he comes in and he's obviously so much better than that, they have 3 right now. So I wouldn't mind it being an upgrade, especially eventually, but they don't have to go that route. But you know what? They could. If the right guy's there, they could. Anything else you want to say about that? He was the only corner in Mock Draft Monday, but I might mention another one here when we get done. You ready for me to roll through?
Yep, go.
Okay. The last one for February, another quarterback. Sam Howe, quarterback, North Carolina. I don't even know that I'd be okay with him in the second round.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Put it this way, not before the second round.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'd be happy in the second round. So,
and then because then when I headed into March 7th, it was another interior offensive lineman. Remember, this was just before free agency in Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. Hey, you got the Dan Moore Jr. connection there already. But I thought he was interesting, and there's another one that we'll get to later. But after what the Steelers did in free agency, I felt that position would be lowered. To me, that's a pick where I don't see Kenyon Green. I don't know if he's in the Steelers top 20. And the only way that, let's say he's Steelers 21 or 22, the only way they're going to take him is if, they say if 2 guys are close and one of them's more of a position of need, they'll draft that, then they'll make that difference. But otherwise they try not to. That's what Kevin Colbert was saying on Monday. And that's where I feel like Kenyon Green could have been. He could have been that guy. Hey, we have several guys really close, but hey, we could use another interior offensive lineman. Let's go here. I don't think that's the case anymore with him. You kind of agree there?
Yes, very much.
All right. Then March 14th, we had quarterback Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati.
I like Ridder better than Howe, probably.
Yes.
But for me, he's not around 1.
I'll be honest with you.
This is me personally. There's 2 quarterbacks, and I'm not even saying they're necessarily even round 1 grades. To me, there's 2 quarterbacks for the first round, and it's Willis and Pickett.
That's how I felt too, but honestly, I kind of have Ridder ahead of Pickett right now. And I know
there are some things I like about him a lot. Yes.
I think there's a higher ceiling, but I don't know that he's going to get there. With the athleticism and everything, there could be a higher ceiling, but there's also more concerns in his game. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's more of the wild card. If the Steelers love him, then they must feel better. They know more about him than I do. So that's good. That to me, that's almost like the pick that I'm like, that's the pick that I wouldn't be shocked for the Steelers to make at 20. I wouldn't be mad, but I wouldn't be excited.
Yeah, I'd feel like we've stretched a little.
That's kind of how, honestly, the only quarterback that I feel like I can get excited about at 20 is Willis. That I'd be like, I'm so happy last year's like they got their guy at 24. Like, are they going to get their guy at 20? If it's Willis, but I half expect a repeat of 2019 when the guy I thought that the Steelers might get, I've said it 100 times, went third, and I'm like, well, so much for that. Let's see who they get. I hope they do trade up for Devin Bush now, which they did. But it was kind of the whole idea of if they stay there. And we'll talk about trades in just a minute. Let me roll through these. So that was Desmond Ridder. That was the Monday where the legal tampering period kicked off.
Yes.
Because then the next week it was interesting. They went safety Daxton Hill, Michigan. And I felt that was one of those things where what's the position the Steelers don't have? Safety, which they now do as of Friday. Some doesn't mean that they don't have to draft one, but they don't have to reach. But to me, they're like, the Steelers need another safety. But Daxton Hill's more of a slot corner and free safety rather than a strong safety,
right.
box safety, dime backer, something like that. But now they'd actually have a little bit more freedom to go that route if that's what they really wanted. March 28th, that was Devonte Wyatt out of Georgia. I was really big on Devonte Wyatt for a long time. KT Smith loved him. I'm more now like the Steelers have to love him. There was the off the field issues that people were bringing up, but they were from 2 years ago. I'm like, and they're like, people are now taking him off their board. No, that's a load of crap. That's a load of crap. People aren't now taking him off their board. He was either off their board 3 months ago, or he's still on their board because nothing's changed in that amount of time.
Correct. It wasn't new information.
But I might not have been aware that the Steelers could have had him off their board for that reason. So I don't know. If they love him, go with it. That's one of those picks that if they take him, I'm going to be excited what he could do because the Steelers – everything's got to be good in that respect if the Steelers are going to take him. Don't you agree?
Yes, very much so.
So, and in other words, I think they could invest more time into finding stuff out than we could. Then moving into April, Trevor Penning, offensive tackle, Northern Iowa. He's a guy that's really moved up. He is more of a run blocking tackle. He's more of a right tackle. Steelers didn't send anyone to his pro day. A lot of people were like Penning. I know Tony Defio did a mock draft. That's who he had him take. But once again, it's one of those small school guys, and the Steelers didn't send anyone to look at him or any of the main guys to look at him. That's why I don't know that they would pull the trigger there. What do you think?
Right. Yeah. Kind of feeling the same there. But I've also noticed him creeping up boards. So
yeah. Where a lot of them, I see him going before the Steelers pick.
Yeah, which to me then ends up being interesting. I always wonder then, okay, are people buying too much into somebody, or is what exactly has caused this drastic movement in in somebody's positioning there?
But that's another one of those players that the Steelers didn't seem interested in. So I kind of hope they go before the Steelers. I kind of feel the same way about Linderbaum. I would rather have a player like that go before the Steelers. So that way it's someone that you don't think they were going to take is gone. The next one, the only wide receiver that I covered in this whole series was Jamison Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. To me, there's 3 or 4 receivers that are possibilities that if the Steelers, I trust the Steelers that if there's one guy that stands out over the rest and they think they should take him and they take him, I'm not going to question it.
Yeah, I
even in the first round. In the first round. I would prefer them go day 2 with receiver because I think they can do well there. But if they think the guy that gets in round 1 and that's what they do, then I'm going to say then that's what they did. Okay. So but that's the only wide receiver that I'd covered. Then the 18th, my birthday, they had mocked Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman from Boston College. Jeff loved him and did a write-up on him. And then the Steelers signed 2 interior offensive linemen, just like, they're not going that route. I feel like Zion Johnson is a lot like Kenyon Green, that I think he would have been close in that range for the Steelers, but I don't know that he's going to be the best option based on position.
Yep.
Yeah. So, because I think Daniels, I think is going to be the real deal. Fingers crossed. And last but not least, I did one this week, and I'm like, I'm going to do it because I want to cover him. This was one of those just crazy drafts that they had. massive quarterbacks going early and everything else. And the last one I did was that the Steelers got Kyle Hamilton, safety of Notre Dame. There's some people that have him dropping down their boards because they don't know where to play him. Is he really a safety or is he a linebacker? Well, to me, they're wondering if he's a safety or a linebacker. That's right up the Steelers' alley. That's right there for them. But
love those guys.
Yeah, my thing is with him, it only takes one team ahead of the Steelers to know that they can fit him in somewhere. I mean, the guys at the Draft Network that did the breakdown, like, this might be the best prospect we've ever looked at. So that was, some people are really high on him based on that. He's a defensive playmaker. If he's there, I say run to the podium and take him because he's a playmaker. Some people in the article are like, there's no way he'd ever make it past the Ravens and they'd let us get him. And I'm like, the Ravens aren't trying to take the Steelers picks, one. And two, the Ravens didn't take him in that mock draft because Charles Cross was sitting there for them. And this was before there was news of Stanley this week, their tackle that looks like he'll be able to play. They're in the same kind of boat with their offensive tackles as the Steelers kind of are with their defensive tackles. They don't know if they have, who they really have and what they can expect out of them this season. So that's why I wouldn't be shocked to see the Ravens go tackle there. But I thought, do you know anything about Kyle Hamilton? I've seen him in the top 5 so many times. And then recently I've seen him more in the teens.
Just really all I know about him is kind of some of what you were talking about, just that real athletic playmaker.
Yeah.
And like you said, kind of, is he a hybrid?
Yeah. As long as you know how to use him.
It's exactly
him and Micah Fitzpatrick back there. Great googly moogly. Now there were a couple. We're really running late, but I wanted to go over. There were a couple players that I could have covered in some weeks, and I didn't because there was a better mock that I still think could be in play for the Steelers. Another cornerback, Booth from Clemson.
Yep.
And I took him in some of my mocks. He's the guy that if no one else that you really want is there, I think is the guy.
Yeah.
Where before I thought it could have been a Kenyon Green or a Zion Johnson. Now I think it's more of a Booth. Thank you, Andrew Wilbar. You stuck that in my head. One of the other wide receivers, like the one we picked last week, was not covered here. Olave, he could be one.
There are several wide receivers that could be there that the Steelers would potentially look at.
Yeah,
absolutely. Again, depending on how the draft plays out in front of them.
Exactly. Now, notice there were some players here that weren't here. Hutchinson wasn't covered here. Okay. Thibodeau wasn't covered here. Who's the tackle from NC State? Some people actually had him fall into the Steelers at 20 early on. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to be there. Then you got the tackle from Alabama. Some of these guys, I don't even remember their names because you know why? They're not going to be there. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you. When you don't even know what the number 1 pick is, and you don't even know if the quarterbacks are going to go, how in the world do you have any clue what's going to happen in this draft?
Yeah, I know. And to me, that's what makes it so fun and why I'm so ready to be tuned in, here in 2 nights and just be glued to it.
Yeah.
Because there are so many questions.
I want to see drama.
So many up in the air. So many. I mean, well, it was put out there on the Slack channel for us yesterday. I'm out there fishing, and of course, you people kept blowing up the Slack channel. So every once in a while, I was having to stop to read and see what's going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh! And then I saw the tweet out from Schefter saying that there was, talk that there could be more teams looking to trade back in the first round than trade up.
Thank you. That was going to be the next thing I brought up.
Good, because to me, it's like,
put that tweet in there. That was me. I brought that up. Everyone's like, oh, the Steelers need to trade back. The Steelers need to trade back. Remember this, people. I'm telling you now. I am telling you now. I know people were talking about it earlier in the live chat. I haven't looked much because I've been focused on my paper. Sorry about that. But early on, I saw that. I don't even remember who it was. When everybody's trying to trade back, it's really hard to do.
It's really hard to do because when everybody's trying to trade back, then teams knowing you're wanting to come back, they're not willing to give up much to let you come back.
But if there's a lot of teams that are wanting to trade back, maybe it's a little bit cheaper to trade up.
Exactly. It's cost analysis. It really is.
It's like this. Before I moved into my house, I lived 30 minutes east of here in a different city, and the traffic there is horrendous. I'd never had issues with traffic. Do you know why? Because when everyone else from there was going east towards Baltimore and DC, I was heading west.
Yeah.
And it was so much easier for me. And I never had problems. Sorry, I used an absolute. I rarely had problems. Rarely with traffic.
Yep.
Because I was going the opposite of what everyone else was trying to do. That might be with the Steelers. I mean, who knows? They might trade up because it might be cheaper than normal.
Because the value is there.
Yeah.
To trade up. It's hard to tell. Which actually, if you really listen closely and to Colbert and Tomlin's press conference, there was a lot of that type of talk in there. It's like, we spend our time, we look and say, oh, what do we think it might cost us to trade up to places and what we could get if we traded back and things like that. But then we have to wait until the day of to see how things play out.
It doesn't do you.
Bit there is that they've looked at both scenarios and where they see if they could get certain value, where they would consider either direction.
Yes,
for the right
exactly. If it's the right value to pick another pickup, I mean, I don't know, and I think Andrew might have tweeted it from the BTSC account, but it's like, oh, the Steelers traded back. They traded back 3 times with their first round pick and still got a pick in the first round. They traded back 2 spots, got another pick. So traded back 2 spots, got another. I can't see that happen. That's just, no, the Steelers aren't going to trade back there with their same pick over and over that many times and pick up an extra 5 picks. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And especially, and they were, and a couple of them were 3rd round picks. I'm like, they're not going to trade. You're not trading back 2 spots in the first round and gaining a 3rd round pick. It's not going to happen this year because too many people are wanting to trade back. They're not going to give you anything nearly as much to trade up. What might end up happening if the Steelers, it might be so bad to trade back that the Steelers might not even gain. If they wanted to gain a pick, they might not gain anything other, higher than a 5th. It might even be, oh, well, we'll give you our 3rd in the middle of the 3rd round, but we're going to take your 4th. And you don't gain a pick, you just get a higher pick somewhere else. I just don't know if the value is going to be there if so many teams are wanting to do it. But those are reports. We don't even know if the reports are true. I got 2 questions for you to finish out. A regular question and then the big question. Okay. First question, I asked you this last year. Do you think the Steelers' first round pick is one of the players that I highlighted in the mock draft Mondays?
Let me put it this way. If the answer is yes, I really only see a couple that it could be.
The only 2, I have 2 that I would add.
Okay.
I would look at 2 to the list. Booth and Olave.
Oh, adding them to the list?
If I add them to my list of mock draft Mondays, I think that would be covered.
Yeah, you probably are.
Yeah.
That probably does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the pick. We are about 10 minutes later than what we should be doing this, but you know what the question is, and you all know how this is. If you put it in there, I'm going to tell you, you only get one answer. But this is what we asked last year on our last show. We've got to do it again. Okay. Rich, who is the Steelers' first pick? Now, if you want to give us a crazy scenario of them trading back or blah, 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 if you say trade back, trade up, blah, blah, blah.
I don't care. That doesn't matter.
I just want the name. If you think it's a trade, that's fine. Keep it to yourself. Tell me the name of the first player you think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take in the 2022 NFL draft.
Okay, I'm going to go out there and go a little wild with it, and it's one of the ones off your list, but I'm going a little different. And maybe this is just me because I kind of like to see it. I'd like to see this person in the black and gold and see what it looks like. Okay. And I'm going with Devonte Wyatt.
Okay. That was who I went with last week on the preview.
Oh, really? I didn't get to
Yeah.
see the preview last week. So
I know.
but that's who I'm going to go
Yeah.
with. If that guy is there, I see the Steelers taking him. I really do. And I think there's a decent chance he could be.
Yeah. Remember, people that are putting their answers in, I'm not going to bring them up until after I put the question out there.
He could also be, the third pick in the draft, but
yes, he could. He could.
But I'm going to go with Wyatt.
I'm going to go way outside the box.
Okay, go way outside the box.
I'm going to say there aren't any quarterbacks available. And I'm going to say somebody drops. So I'm just going to pick a random person to drop.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
And but it could be anyone. And this pick could literally go top 5. I'll go with Charles Cross.
Okay.
Just because I think he would be a great anchor on that line.
Okay.
So I'm going with something different. Just go. Sure. I would not bet anything on it. So I put it out there. I like Wyatt as a player. As long as the Steelers are comfortable with him as a person, I think he'd be a great player. That's who Jeff and I took in the SB Nation mock draft.
Hey, if the Steelers take him, you'll know they have done their homework and they're good with it.
All right, someone put a name out there, and this is another one I forgot about. Another one, it would take him dropping, and he was never mocked in any of the major mocks that I covered, and that was Brian Brown says Jordan Davis from Georgia. If he's there, I could see the Steelers taking him, but I would also see them utilizing more than just a strict nose. He would need to be more of a Javon Hargrave than a Casey Hampton, because Casey Hampton would have a hard time being Casey Hampton in today's NFL.
Yep.
Am I right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Yep. Sean Manahan says Willis.
What you talking about?
Steel Dog 88, I'm not reading it all, but he says Travis Jones. No one went to that pro day. That would be really. I see him maybe in the second. Brad Jewett says Jordan Davis is who he predicts to fall. That I could have almost gone with him if you could, but I just picked a random person.
That's okay.
Eddie Power says Willis. Mean Joe. Thanks, Mean Joe. Sorry, says Jordan Davis.
Mean Joe.
Brian Blackstock says Jamison Williams. If he's there, I could see that.
Very much.
Okay. State of the Steelers. I haven't seen this one in the live chat before. I like this one. I like their icon.
For
those of you, who are listening in audio form, I'm not even going to bother to try to describe it. He says Jordan Davis, or she. They say Jordan Davis. I should say that.
There you go.
Michael O'Malley says Hamilton is my new pick. I almost said that'd be great if he fell. Russ Obenstein said could be Zion Johnson. Bart Mackey says Jordan Davis. I'm not reading the next one because they gave 3 names. Someone's saying about that. Here's one. Demetrios says Lewis. Is it Sign?
Whatever.
Is it? I don't care. I've never learned how to say his last name. The safety from Georgia. I would love him in the second, but he's not going to last to the Steelers in the second. And I think he's a little bit too early in the first. Tyler W. Jamison Williams. Nope. Someone said 2. Steelers Chick 46 says Olave. Mark Tobin says Wyatt. Tate Boys. Somehow, some way, Kyle Hamilton. Okay. Jacob Heinrich says Jordan Davis. I'm looking for Richard Adamson says Daxton Hill. Okay. Oh, here's one we didn't talk about. Sherry Richards says Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Utah.
Yeah.
That's another one. Okay. Yeah. Mark Davison.
Good one, Sherry.
Speaking in absolutes, he's just doing this to make me mad. It's saying Jordan Davis will be a Steeler.
Marky D. Don't make us unleash. Don't make us go all Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman on you.
Okay. Reginald Rivers says Daxton Hill. Andrew Wilbar said this earlier, but I'll bring it up now. He says, read my mock on Thursday to find out. I'm going to have to sneak a peek at that one. Some people are giving me longer than just a name. Mark Tobin says Penning. Trevor Penning, offensive tackle. Eddie Logan says Malik Willis. Devin Logan says just feels like it's Willis. Here's a good one. Another one. James Bradshaw says Stingley. If he's there 20, I'd say go get him. I almost feel like someone's going to fall.
Yeah,
I almost feel like, but I just don't know who.
Right. That's why it could be so neat just to see who falls, and then the Steelers run up there and get him, and everybody's like, yes.
Yeah. See, but like Tyler W had said here, he said something that the Steelers don't often go in the first round: receiver, tackle, corner. What if they fall? Well, if they fall where they should be higher and the Steelers take them, I want them to take them because they fell. I don't want the Steelers taking a tackle because he's their number 20 player. I want them to do better than 20. I want someone ranked higher than who they have at 20. Yeah. That's what I want.
Wouldn't you like to see the Steelers get a guy they had ranked in their top like 12?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
Get a guy ranked 8 positions higher than where you're drafting. That would be phenomenal.
Well, here would be one that would be like that. Tim, is it Sarah Gold? Says Sauce Gardner. I don't know he's going to get out of the top 10, but man, if something happened with the Steelers got him, I would love him.
For it. Yeah.
Okay. Eddie Power says Devin Logan. I agree. 4TL Music Group says Hamilton. Kathy Ford says Olave. A lot of people are saying Marky D because they're laughing at him. Not laughing at him, laughing at what he said because it was pretty good. A lot of people chiming in on their opinions about other stuff, which is great. So I think that's the last one we have. All I know is I can't wait. I'm taking your line already, but you're going to get to say it later. I want to know who the Steelers players are. I don't care if they end up drafting 3. I don't care if they end up drafting 10 based on how the draft plays out. They're scheduled to draft 7. I'm not going to pigeonhole how many they have to take. I want to know who the players are. They're going to come out of this draft with more players. I don't think they're going to trade away all their picks for 2023. I just don't see it happening. And I want to know who to cheer for. I like hearing about these players drop. Like, imagine if we were doing this in 2012 with David DeCastro. I mean, we would have been like, maybe that was the guy I took a flyer on that. Oh, well, if he would drop to 24, I think the Steelers should take him for sure, but I don't know that he's going to. I'm just hoping one of these players do.
Yeah.
I just want one of them to. I think there's really a good 8 possibilities in there that could happen. So, and they might even have their choice of a couple of them. So, going to be interesting. I think we got a couple more, except it skipped on me here.
We got
here. Ed Mahoney says Devin Lloyd. So that was another one. So I'm really excited. Just to say this real quick before I give you the last thought. Make sure you are subscribed. We will be going after each pick a little bit after each pick. I'm going to have a breaking news podcast. It's going to be really short after every selection the Steelers make that goes out on the audio side only. So if you're listening to this in audio, be looking for that. If you're not able to follow the draft, you'll get that right away. We will also have different people coming on YouTube after picks. So make sure you're paying attention there. Go subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. You'll know when we're going. We're going to be mixing it up with who all it is. I think I might only be on for recaps for each day rather than individual picks. I'm not even sure. Anything's possible. So there's that. Make sure you check it out behindthesteelcurtain.com. We've got so much content coming up to you before the draft. I'm not even hardly having to write anything, which is just unusual for me because I usually have several articles a day. But we've got a lot of people churning out great content, so don't miss that. Rich, closing thoughts.
Really, I can't wait to read Andrew Wilbar's Friday morning Steelers round 1 mock draft because that's one of my favorites.
Thursday morning.
No, Friday
morning. Okay. Gotcha.
I hope you understood that now.
Yes.
Just ready for the picks.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah. But Andrew, I can't wait. Honestly, I'll say this. You know what I can't wait to see as Andrew has done some of this work? I can't wait to see some of this stuff fall into line. His free agent stuff fell so into line with what the Steelers ended up doing. I'm really interested to see how well he's done with some of this draft stuff. Yeah. So that's going to be fantastic. I'm going to be in Thursday night. I'll have my knee-jerk reaction to the Steelers' first-round pick. Can't wait to get that going. I'll be getting in some other articles Friday, Saturday as well. NFL draft.
Woo!
Can't wait.